All right, Adam. So every law firm, almost every law firm, they hire interns, and most of them, the vast majority, don't turn that into some sort of competitive advantage. And somehow you've been able to do that. You've built a program around it, and it's so strong that it's gotten national attention. What do you think that most law firm owners completely miss about the power of an internship program, and why do you think that might be costing them big? It's kind of a loaded
Well,
question, but
yeah.
I think it's an important one.
So, I mean, they miss everything about it, really. And I can go in kind of piece by piece by piece. But, one of the things that I've learned over the years from you, from Jim, from other mentors, is that when you have an idea, right, it can be a marketing idea that's also a sales idea, that's also a legal idea or production, and you can use it in many different ways and it can evolve. So as we're going to talk about, the Rossen Law Firm's summer criminal justice internship program, it wasn't always like this. And a lot of it was just, one year we think of it one way. Then the next year we think of it, hey, how can I make this better? Something like COVID happens and it's just, well, what can I do now? Right. And so it's really just about having an open mind and being creative because nobody's ever going to give you permission to do something. And most of us as lawyers, typical thing that I know we all talk about all the time, but most of us are going to have a scarcity or a fixed mindset of the answer is no. So I'm not that smart. I mean, I'm normal, right? I'm no better than anybody else. But this program has evolved and gotten better just from being willing to say, well, screw it. Why can't we do this? Why can't we evolve? And having it and taking time to reflect back and say what was good, what was bad, and how can I be better? And just be a little creative. So, we can kind of go into all that. But I mean, that's the way I would answer that question, Tyson. As a general answer. And then, of course, I can go into specifics as far as how our specific program has evolved and what, we're on probably version 5.0 of the internship now and what that's morphing into.
Yeah, I am curious to hear how you got started because it's something that we are actually working on. We've been working on this for a while where we've been like building out this curriculum and all that. And it's interesting how big of a thing we've made it. And we've not yet gotten off the ground big time. Like we started with a couple interns last summer that was like part of like more of an official program. And we definitely have plans to start it. So I am curious. You said you're like on the fifth iteration or so.
Yeah.
So like where do you like how did you initially begin this thing? Did you start with a curriculum?
No, no, not at all. Not at all. So look, I'm a criminal lawyer. My background's criminal law. And I know, Tyson, you were a criminal lawyer, first, right? Way, way, way back,
Yeah.
criminal and PI. And in criminal law, even when I was a prosecutor, look, before I became a prosecutor, I was a CLI, a certified legal intern. So there was always been that component. And in Florida, even 20 years ago, in your second or third year, when you have the accreditation, you can try cases and be a prosecutor, a public defender, and some other areas of law as well, and actually speak on the record. So I had that background being a CLI and then even being a baby prosecutor. 6 months in, I got my own intern. And I was like, wow. So I've always had that experience in criminal law. I started my firm at 26 years old in 2008. And very shortly after, maybe the following summer, a friend of a friend was like, hey, I have another friend who needs an internship. Can they intern? Sure. Come on. No problem. And back then, iteration one was just hang out, just observe, watch, let's talk, sit in on client meetings, go to court. And it's just kind of a one-on-one type of experience. Now, keep in mind, my firm from '08 to 15 was me and my old partner. We had no staff. So maybe we had one or two interns every summer from maybe 2009, 2010 till about 2015. So maybe 5 to 8 total. But that's what it was. It was just version 1.0. It was just come hang out. Oh, if you're, is it a college student? Is it a law student? Well, if you have a law student, if you're a law student, give you some projects here and there. Just very informal. I wouldn't say disorganized, but it was just more come hang out and let's just see what the day and the weeks bring.
Do you
And
think
that was it.
do you think in the early days that you were it was actually productive for them to be part of it? Because it doesn't sound like it was very structured, but that doesn't mean it
Right.
wasn't productive.
No, I do think it was productive from the sense of, hey, we're holding the briefcase every day. You get behind the scenes of what it's like in a way to be Better Call Saul or to be the Lincoln lawyer. You know, not very glamorous, not it was professional. It wasn't unprofessional, but it certainly wasn't professional, like a professional or prestigious internship. It was just come hang out. And sometimes those are the best because you do get immersed and you do get a lot of that one-on-one attention. And look, Manny Sarahovich, who is the managing partner of the Rossen Law Firm. I was his high school basketball coach and he was an intern. And he, in I think 2009, was the come hang out for the summer. And that's what it was. And, it was great because it was 3 or 4 years after I coached him. He's now hanging out with his former basketball coach for the summer. Well, I think it was the summer before he went to law school. And it's just, it was a great experience because we were super close to begin with. And years later, he's running the firm. So in that regard, and I think in criminal law, that's the majority of the internships that I see from my friends in South Florida. It's more of, well, you're down here for spring break, come hang out for a week. You're here for the summer, come hang out for maybe 4 weeks, 3-4 weeks over the summer. And that's usually what I see in my industry. So that was kind of version one.
You mentioned Better Call Saul and Lincoln Lawyer, which I think both of those have really good elements of things that are true in in what you do and what I used to do when it comes to criminal
Right.
defense. I think that there's some things that are over glamorized. I think there's things that
Yes.
get wrong, but just it's part of having a show and being part of a movie. But when it comes to some of the interns when they come in, like what their perception of what it's going to be like versus reality, what would you say are some of those that they think it's going to be one thing and it's really another thing?
Well, they think, look, we have emergencies, we have different things, but it's the same thing for doctors when you watch Grey's Anatomy. Not everything is a skyscraper collapses and people are being rushed into the ER and this doctor's having an affair with this doctor. Those things do happen, but it's not as exciting and glamorous. So same kind of thing. Our day to day is very busy and we're constantly moving and shaking, but it's sometimes there's a lot more of shoveling the crap than it is of just the pure glamour and excitement. Those are kind of fewer and far between.
All right, here we go. So what I always kind of found interesting about criminal defense, and it's like something that's really challenging, is we had a call I think 2 days ago from a former client of mine that had been locked up, and I haven't talked to him in probably I don't know 7 years or so, but he got
Right.
locked up on something, and he needed someone to show up yesterday for a bond hearing, and because he just gotten picked up, and I was telling the receptionist, she's like is that something is that normal? I said that's criminal defense, like that's what criminal
Yeah.
defense is like. So did you have were the interns surprised by that part of criminal defense?
Um, a little bit, yeah, a little bit, but that's the thing. We do a good job of talking to them and explaining, hey, this is real and this is fast. Boom. Now a lot of people don't understand how fast paced it is and can be at times, but they, pretty much after 1 or 2 days, they get it and they know. But yeah, it's definitely surprising, especially though when you have other experience in transactional work, right? Or even PI, the pre-let side is right is it basically is transactional work, right? Well, for some part of it, it's just
Some part of
slower
it, maybe. Yeah,
paced,
yeah.
right? It's slower paced. It's not like the litigation aspect where it's okay. I got a depot here. We got this. We got that. We got a trial next week. We're prepping, right? So when they have experienced in other areas, especially more slower paced, then yeah, it's an adjustment. But I also think a lot of people, between watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine and Law and Order and Better Call Saul and all these shows, that's more people have more of an idea of all law being like that than the real estate transactions, or wills and trusts, I'd
Yeah.
say.
So in your program, is this something where are you accepting people that are pre-law too, or are they just like basically rising 2Ls and rising 3Ls?
So now what we do is a lot different. So now we have an official program. And this is, like I said, like iteration 4 or 5.
Yes, like what are the
So
requirements though?
right.
What do you have to be to
So
fit into the program?
we have basically two different tracks. So track one is high school. We only accept students from American Heritage High School, which is down here in South Florida. It's I actually teach at the high school now. They have their own pre-law track. It's really cool.
In high school?
Yes, yes. They have
Holy crap.
6. The school is amazing. They have 6 pre-professional programs: pre-law, pre-med, engineering, business and entrepreneurship, biomedical engineering. Like it's crazy. Um, and so we set aside between 2 and 4 spots just for the high schoolers. Last year, our high school students had briefed more cases than our law students. It's insane. They're usually state of Florida moot court and mock trial champs every year. They always do really well at nationals. It's an amazing program that's been going on for about 20 years. So we have that track that is 9 weeks just for those students. And then we have a 12-week program, which is for undergrad and law students. Now, our internship is unpaid. So it generally attracts, for the law students, we're generally attracting your 1L summer. We did have a 2L summer last year, and for her, it was not about the money. It was, I want to be a public defender. I want to be here. I don't need a paid thing, because this is where I want to be. So, and we do a pretty good job now of weeding out people who want to get paid, need to get paid, or is looking for this as just a resume builder, because we've honed in where it is a criminal justice internship, specifically for people who, I will accept people if they're considering prosecution, but we really want people who want to defend people, who want to represent people, criminal defense, criminal justice.
Okay, so I have a really big question because I guarantee other people have it. Are you able to get around the pay part of it because they get college credit and high school credit for it? Is that the workaround?
So they do, yes, and even there's some of the law schools have been able to give credit. And, that was something 3-4 years ago as we were growing this, we kind of had some internal debates about this. And look, look, this is voluntary. I believe in free will. Okay. We're not forcing anybody to be here. I still, maybe this makes me feel old, but I still believe internship is unpaid. A law clerk is paid, and I don't, and I think you shouldn't call a paid job a paid internship. It should be a law clerk, right? Position or something like that. And the way, if anybody wants to come at us or have it be a problem, then you're just ruining something that's great for society, for our community, and for the students. And so that was a decision that I made. And I'm like, look, you want to come after me? Come after me, right? Because, what are we doing here? We're helping the community. We're inspiring the next generation of criminal defense lawyers. And personally, I'm not going to let a potential gray area influence what I believe is part of my passion and my calling, which is to inspire the next group, generation of criminal defense lawyers.
Yeah, and I don't have any problem with that. To be honest, I will make sure I'm clear about that. I
know.
I think, and I'm guessing that the program is more, for lack of a better way of putting it, it's more program based, education based, as opposed to like work based.
Yes, I mean they do work, and there is work, but it's program based. We have a curriculum. Okay. So we actually have a real curriculum. And so we weave these things in. And again, look, I'll say it here too, Tyson, because I don't care. If anybody has a problem with it, sue me. Okay. I don't care. I will fight to my grave for this, for this program.
What you wish for.
I know. I know. But, look, and it's like a few of the Florida law schools won't let us go on their OCIs because it's not paid. Okay. Right. Then maybe they should waive tuition for the credits that they're giving them and not make the students pay the tuition for the credits that they're giving them, because, right, that's basically the same thing.
Yeah, that and that's
You know?
it's interesting. So we came into, and I want to get into the curriculum in a second.
Yeah,
So don't dive into that because I definitely want to get into that in a little bit. But so what I find interesting is that like whenever I did extern, they called them externships in law school. I don't know if they
right.
called them that for you too, but like, where we got credit for it. But they were limited to like government jobs for the most part. There were a couple that were like not for profits that we could do, which I found really interesting. That the government says, "Oh yeah, we can get this free labor," but they're not willing to do that for private institutions. But what we were able to do with so Quincy, one of actually our second newest attorney, we just hired another one last week, where when she was in law school, what we were able to do because she was working like she is a really hard worker, so she actually worked full time through law school, which is incredible. But so what we were able to do is work out. We created a curriculum for her. It was specifically for her so that she could actually get paid and she got credit. So she
That's great.
was, well, it was, and they actually agreed to it. And to their credit, they actually agreed to it. I'm drawing a blank on the name of the law school, but they were, and they agreed to give her credit, which I was like, okay, kudos to you for like not, because they said they'd never done it before. This is the first time they'd ever done it. I was like, kudos to you for actually having an open mind about it. And so I wonder if there is sort of a window now where we can build some sort of curriculum for these universities that will actually get credit for these students. But my question though is why do you think that the government and these not-for-profits have sort of been able to shoehorn in where they're the only ones that they're able to get this credit?
Well, I mean, I think it is one of the big hypocrisies of just the legal industry or the institution of law school. I mean, I think their argument is going to be because it's not for profit, it's not for financial gain. And, they're going to say, well, any work that they do helps us for financial gain. But that's not why we do it at all. And any, it's a tenuous link at best, I think. That to me would be their argument. But then again, look, we see how much money the government wastes every day. Look what's going on in the country right now, as we're filming this, right? Every day something comes out with more, millions and billions of just wasted money that governments, local, state, and federal can't manage. So why not have it, with private industry, especially when we're giving, when again, it's not having 15 interns in a sweatshop working, right? Our program it's a curriculum. We have guest speakers, I'll go into all that with you. And it's more about really inspiring the next generation of criminal defense lawyers. And so when done right, I agree with you. It shouldn't be limited to government. But how many times are the government internships and programs actually done right? But they get a blanket approval. So
Yeah,
as you can tell, I'm pretty passionate about
no,
this.
yeah. So it's really kind of funny to me is so I guess I'll tell a quick story after I say this thing, and then we'll get into the curriculum stuff because I'm really curious. I've got lots of questions about that. But so I found interesting whenever I did my externship, it was at the St. Louis County Prosecutor's Office, which I loved it. It was a great place. Bob McCullough was the head guy over there, but like they did a really good job. Like there's really nice people, but like there wasn't like a curriculum. It was just like I show up and I help
Right.
work on cases, and
Here's
which
some
was
files. Go. Yeah,
yeah,
go.
pretty much what it was. And so there's something called I think it's Rule 13. I think is what it's called. It's called in Missouri. It's probably similar to what your
Yeah.
certified intern or whatever that was called. So I did find it interesting that there was no curriculum. It was just like look at files, which I thought was cool. I thought it was awesome. Like, oh, I get to look at these criminal cases. It was neat. But it was funny.
Yeah.
The first time I did an internship, and I did it unpaid, and I got a call and an email from Career Services, and they were like, "Hey, you can't do that, just so you know," and like kind of freaked me out. So I didn't do it. I never did it again. I'm like, "Oh, I didn't know you. I thought you had. I didn't know you could do. You had. I didn't know you had to pay people. Like that was the like, yeah, you need to look at this, and this, and sent me all these regulations. I was like, okay, all right, well, got it. No, thanks for letting me know, kind of a thing. So I think it's kind of
Yeah.
interesting.
And look, when I was a CLI, I mean, I got, I was happy to get school credit for it because it you know, it was much better than sitting in some 3L classes that I was uninterested in. But I didn't, you know, if I got paid, it would have been great, but I didn't care. It had nothing, you know, I wanted the experience. I was like, let's go to
100%.
work. Like, I mean, I tried 5 cases. I tried 5 jury trials before I graduated law school.
Oh my! So we did. So Rule 13 didn't allow
Mhm.
things like that, but it did allow me to do like like preliminary hearings and some things like that, like some really
Okay.
like arguing on motions to suppress. Like I was able to do some fun things like that, which were really cool, but definitely not trials.
Right. I
That wasn't
mean,
allowed.
if I didn't have my CLI experience, I would probably be a personal injury lawyer right now, which
Yeah.
could have been great too. But that's the whole reason that I became a prosecutor and ended up working in government service because I loved it so much and because of the internship. So it was something that inspired me to work there and to be there and helped me open the door as well. So, you know,
Yeah.
I think these internships are amazing.
I agree with you. So like I never would have felt comfortable. Like I felt really comfortable in the courtroom for a variety of reasons. I mean, but it was a big part of it had to do with that externship where I was able to get in the courtroom and ask, cross-examine a police officer. And
Yeah.
I was probably awful at it, but I felt like I was king of the world and it gave me that
Yeah.
confidence to really, and it was cool because you got to meet like criminal defense attorneys that were in St. Louis, and it was kind of nice where like they knew that they could easily just waive the PH, and they're like hey, you want some experience on this? I was like, yeah, I would love it. So they wouldn't waive it just so I could get some experience on it. And it really it was I'm gonna mention his name, John Newsham. He's a judge now in St. Louis County. He was a really well known DWI attorney and criminal defense attorney in St. Louis. But I remember one time he just like, yeah, he's like you're gonna crush me on this, but if you want some experience, let's do this. And so
That's
he
great.
was like so nice, and like it's a good way to get involved with the local bar too. It's such a great experience. So I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we lawyers everywhere I've been, lawyers love interns. I always say interns are kind of when you pledge a fraternity or sorority. The whole system, in a way, is set up for the pledges, right? Everybody loves the pledges and gets excited when you have all these things going on. Well, and the same thing for us. We love when our interns are there. When we're walking them around the courthouse, the judges love them. They stop court to come up sidebar. Let's talk. Where are you guys from? You know, other defense attorneys, prosecutors love them. There's so many people that want to give back and maybe they just don't know how, but whenever they see an opportunity to stop and talk to our interns or any interns, they love it. And I mean, it's just such an amazing thing. So I think I've always thought it's kind of like that, like fraternities and sororities in a way. Although we do not haze the interns, but we have fun with them.
Yeah, I want to give you this quote, and it's by John Crosby, and it's mentoring is a brain to pick, an ear to listen, and a push in the right direction. And the part of this quote I want to focus on is a push in the right direction. How do you make sure that you've structured a curriculum that provides the push in the right direction?
So we talk a lot about criminal justice, social justice. So I don't have a caseload. I've been out of legal production for about 3 years, and so what we do is we pair our attorneys up. Usually each lawyer gets 2 or 3 interns, and they're with the interns in their pods from the day-to-day legal work and watching court and assisting in that. The part that I'm very involved in is the curriculum part. So before we start, they have, I don't want to say homework, but they have project. They have a project or two that they have to do. We book club a book, and I might add a second book this summer. So last summer, we did a book that was written by federal Judge Jed Rakoff. It's called Why the Innocent Plead Guilty and the Guilty Go Free. And it's a pretty deep criticism of the federal criminal justice system and the inequities in the federal criminal justice system. So we book club that. We watched some movies and documentaries. Last year, we watched a documentary about called Cash for Kids. And it was a scandal about 15, 20 years ago in Pennsylvania.
The guy that
where
just
these,
he
and
just
one of
got
them,
pardoned. Yeah,
they just got pardoned, right? Or they
yeah.
just got out, right? Of these 2 federal judges that were basically selling kids to private juvenile prisons. And so we have projects with that. We have guest speakers. We have the Innocence Project come. Part of now this new version is we want to expand our reach with some additional statewide and nationwide criminal justice, whether it's bail reform or just prison reform organizations, to tell those stories, because it's pretty impactful when you're hearing from somebody at the Innocence Project, right? And seeing and meeting somebody who spent 10, 20, 30 years in prison for a crime they did not commit and they were exonerated. We talk about the cases that they work on with our lawyers. So it's a lot of that as part of the curriculum that's encompassed together. And it's also part of the interview process. It used to be, okay, you want an internship? Cool. You want to go to law school? Amazing. Or you don't know what you want to do? It used to be, hey, spend time with us. You'll be immersed in criminal law. And if you don't like it, that's okay. We've helped you check something off the box. Now it's morphed into, we really want people who have a deep passion and focus for this, and who are not just curious about this, but who are, intent on going deeper in this in their career. So we've, if you think about it, we've niched down, in each iteration of it. So I think by attracting people who already have a passion for this, working on the cases, look, we have former clients come, talk to them. We have current judges, former judges that are coming in person and over Zoom, that have been very open about specific cases. It's a lot easier when you have the former judges who can talk about some cases and stuff. And we've brought them to, rehab facilities, and we've focused on drug abuse, mental health issues. So it's just, it's been pretty easy, to kind of build that and make sure that our interns feel it every day, and immerse themselves in it. And, there's a lot of debriefing, a lot of just philosophical conversations. And last year, our interns had many heated debates. We had some that are pure libertarians, like to the extreme, government should burn down, right? All drugs should be legal. And then and just hearing debates between, and other students saying, well, no, I don't agree with that. And letting them, just cultivating a culture of debate and discussion.
Are these organized debates, or you sort of planned it, or are these things that are they're organically developing?
Some planned, some organic, some it's just me kind of coming in and dropping a little bomb and seeing how they take it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's me just kind of inciting debate, and knowing who's going to say what and what they're going to passionately fight about. We get passionate debates about sex crimes and date rapes and all those type of things. And I love it.
So are all the interns, are they in person, or are they remote as well?
So they're in person. So we found for us, it's just the absolute best experience for them to be in person. So it's in person in our Fort Lauderdale, which is our main office, but there's always time for hybrid as needed. Look, our lawyers are hybrid, courts hybrid. So just wherever it is, but it's 80% in person.
And the speakers, what about, are they mostly in person? You said some come on Zoom, but
mostly, but yeah, I mean, National Innocence Project, they're coming on Zoom. We had, last year we had John Fisher's wife, Judge Lisa Fisher.
Yeah.
So she's in upstate New York. She wanted to come down to Fort Lauderdale and do it if it coincided with a trip for her. It just didn't. So we had her on Zoom, and she was great. I actually just saw her a few weeks ago, and she's like, "Oh, I'll be down here this summer. Let's coordinate so I can come in person." It's amazing.
I love it.
Lots of different things. But yeah, I mean, when we can, it's much better to do in person.
I love that. Yeah. So is the curriculum, is it all criminal defense based, or do you mix any of the business into it?
We do a little bit of the business because, that's what I'm focused on. And I want them to understand how just the business of a law firm works, because I think everybody should. And, that's one of the big things that they don't teach you in law school. So we focus a little bit on it, and one of the, and look, we have students that are very involved in mock trial, right? And I always tell them, you could be a mock trial superstar, but the two things you never get, you never get voir dire, right? But more importantly than voir dire, there's never a real client, whether it's a civil mock trial or a criminal mock trial, right? You might represent a plaintiff in a civil mock trial, but there's no real plaintiff, right? There's no real plaintiff that's injured or aggrieved or had lost out on millions of dollars in a contract dispute. There's no real defendant. So I love when they sit in on our strategy sessions, our new client consults, and they can see how, whether, yes, it is business, it is sales, but how we're building a relationship with somebody and maybe their family from day one. And they can feel the emotions when they can see a grown man cry in a meeting with us, but before they've ever hired us and paid us, right? And then we can debrief about, well, what's our worth? What's our value that we're providing? And tell them and explain a little bit of that to them. Because it's very hard to ask people for money. That's one of the hardest parts of criminal law, is to say, wow, you had a terrible situation going on, and yes, now you need to pay me money. Versus PI, a lot easier. It's, oh, I'm going to get you money. No problem. And so being able to see that and just see, look, like, now we're a law firm of about 23, 25 people. So I do like to show them how the business works a little bit, When we're an open book. We don't hide things from anybody.
Yeah. So that's one of those perception versus reality things with injury. Like I had a long conversation with a client yesterday about how it's an immunity case, and how even though the government killed his dad, they have immunity. And it's like, so
That's
it's like,
tough. Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's one of those things where you have these tough conversations, but I think that that's what's so valuable about what you're doing, because you are right. And what I found to be most really impactful to me whenever I first did criminal defense was just realizing that these were, for the most part, everyday people that have made one or two mistakes and they got busted for it. Like this isn't for the most part some lifelong criminal that has been, and there are those types, or like there are the lifelong drug dealers, or the people that you can clearly see. I had this federal case once where you could look at the beginning and where he was with the federal case, and like it stair stepped up, right? There are those. But the vast majority of people are people that they messed up. They got a DWI, or they had some prescription drugs because they had some back pain, and they borrowed it or they got it from a friend, and they got popped with it because they got pulled over, and they made the stupid decision of letting the officer search the car even though they had no reason to.
Or look, it's somebody who has an anger problem, but they were the victim of parental, whether it's physical or emotional abuse, and they've never gotten help. Right? Especially after COVID. I mean, we are in a major mental health and substance abuse crisis that's always been around, but it's been it was seriously exacerbated from COVID. And, I think it's just getting worse and worse. So when people can really see that and understand that, and on the flip side too, we have a lot of cases where client is charged maybe with, in Florida, we only have three main levels of felonies, really four, but they're charged with a second-degree felony, max of 15 years in prison. But what they really did was a misdemeanor, or what they really did was a third-degree felony, max of 5 years. They're just overcharged. And that happens a lot too, that we see. So, and we talk a lot about that, right? And about, well, what should we do? What should the prosecutors do? This is an imperfect system. It's still, I think, the best system in the world, a lot better than some other countries, but how can we make it better? What should we do? So we do have a lot of those academic or philosophical questions, but I like to also, take those moments of me maybe being the teacher or the professor and us having those debates into, okay, well, now let's look at it real life. And this is Johnny, and this is what Johnny's accused of. And, this is Johnny's family, and, right. And talk about all those different areas, and also be able to say, does it matter if Johnny is factually guilty if the prosecutors can't prove it?
Yeah. So there's all these, there's so many dynamics. How do you speak to the family? How do you speak to the client? How do you speak to the prosecutor whenever you're trying to these are all different things. And like understanding that the client might be guilty, but they might have told all of their family that they're innocent. and then having to try to like they're trying to work that out in their head. Okay, how do I know I need to plead guilty, but I've made all these commitments to my family about I didn't do this, and that's why they should put this money up. And having those really difficult conversations, so for them to be able to witness that is so invaluable.
Right. Yeah. And to see that a lot of times it transcends beyond the actual legal work. So much of criminal law.
Yeah, it's
It's,
not
you know,
black and
we
white like people think.
no.
There's a lot of gray. So I do want to, so people can have an idea as to how you sort of structured. I know you mentioned some of the stuff you do, but is there like some sort of formal curriculum that you built out? Like, do you have like worksheets, and do you have like today we're working on con law? Like, do you have some sort of
So
formal structure like that?
so not quite like that. I mean, we do have the curriculum, but it's not there's no syllabus, so to
Okay.
speak.
Yeah.
It's, we book club at least one book. We have certain documentaries that we watch, debate, discuss. We will have some, projects, but some of it is fluid. So a few years ago, during, when George Floyd was murdered by Derek Chauvin, the police officer, that was during COVID. And we had 13 virtual interns that summer because it was COVID. And, that was about 2 iterations ago of the internship program. But I thought about it one day and I said, we're going to do a project. I'm just going to surprise them. We're going to do a law school final exam. So I told everybody, I said, next Wednesday, we're blocking off from 1 to 5 p.m. Okay. Block it off. And we show up, and I had basically the case file. And this was before the case was even tried. And I gave them the law that he was indicted on, 3rd-degree murder, and I think one of the manslaughter counts. I found the autopsy report online, and I said, all right, guys, law school exam time.
But wasn't the autopsy question? I have a little clarification question. Wasn't the autopsy report, wasn't it excluded, or was it a lab? There was something that was
I
excluded.
I don't remember because this was so early on in the
Gotcha.
case.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, this was, I mean, it happened, I think, Memorial Day weekend, and this must have been around, that summer. So it was way
So long ago.
before,
Yeah.
yeah, it was way before the case ever went to court. But I said, all right, I'm going to give you the police reports. I'm going to give you the body camera footage. I'm going to give you the medical examiner's report with the tox reports, whatever public information I can find. And I said, I'm like, you're going to have 4 hours to write me a legal memo, a legal brief on why we're going to win. I picked the hard one. I said, we've been tasked to represent him, and I'm like, all right, the easy one. I didn't want to give them a choice. I didn't want to give them the easy out of he's guilty. And I go, let's do it. And just like law school, I graded them against each other. And I think the best grade was a law student, but grades, the second and third best were high schoolers. And it was incredible. And, it was just something that came about. So I thought about it, planned it. The next summer was, Bill Cosby was, going through his case. So I said, all right, let's take that case and let's turn it into a project. So if there are current events like that, we've done that in the past, as, I've left leeway and wiggle room to do that. And yeah, I mean, so we've had different projects and different, things going on, more from an academic standpoint. And then of course, with the actual casework, our lawyers love to give them stuff and say, hey, write me a memo on this, go through the discovery on this. Let's debate. Let's discuss this. What do you think about this theory of the case? Right. Sit in on these depositions with me. And of course, everybody loves trial. So,
Yeah.
Anytime we're in trial, they're watching trial or a stand your ground hearing. So from the aspect, that's the way that the curriculum, it's a little blended of academic, philosophical, and then also practical
Yeah.
with the actual casework.
So I'm gonna in a second. I want to sort of transition into some of the media attention you've gotten out of it, because there's definitely a marketing element to this.
Oh yeah.
So I don't want to skip out on that. But can you kind of bullet point for us the things that you think are absolutely necessary to make sure that something like this works? So like that it's that it's not only effective for the student, but it's also effective for the firm.
So number one, look at attract and repel, right? Basic tenets of marketing, even, or what we've learned even with hiring, is we go through a rigorous interview process now. It used to be the come hang out, right? I don't like to use the word babysitting, but it was the come hang out. Now it's not. It's look, this is your commitment. This is your summer. We give people 1 week off, and that's it. So there is no, I'm like, look, if you got 4th of July plans, go be a kid, have fun, but you're going to learn. It's an immersive experience. So that's number one, just being upfront with everybody about saying, look, this is difficult. It's hard. How bad do you want it? Because then you're going to get more buy-in, right? You're going to get a greater commitment. So I think that's always first thing. And just, and of course, even in the interview process, explaining, look, this is criminal law. Like, you're going to see things. And we, every year we have people drop out because they might not, especially with sexual abuse cases. We ask them up front, look, we handle these. Are you going to be okay working on these? Right? Are you going to be, and not just that, but in other avenues as well. So that's definitely number one. And then going through and just, talking with them and making sure that they're committed and they know, right, that it's hard work, but it's exciting, it's interesting. We make it fun. I'm involved all the time, and we get good kids. You attract and repel. So now, we had people in the past who weren't so invested? Yes. And that's why we've kind of niched down to where everybody who's with us, it's competitive. Like, they want to be here. And last year we have an intern of the summer award that we have a plaque. So we have a plaque in the firm where they get to live on in the history of the firm, and then they get a plaque, an award. And so again, we make it competitive, and they are fight over it. They want it. So that's helped.
That's awesome. That's a really good idea. Have you ever had to fire an intern?
So yes, we have. It's been a few years, but we have, and it's nobody's happy,
Yeah.
right? It's unfortunate, but it's been a few years, and again, that might have been in second or third version of the internship. But I think now what we do, we're getting a lot better at it. We had no problems at all the last 2 years, but also we make everybody sign an integrity statement. So one of the things for people to learn, we learned a few years ago, we opened it up in January, and we had a lot of people, or not a lot, but there's a few people, January and February. Oh yes, I commit. I'm so excited. And then they keep looking for the paid internship, or the better resume builder. Oh, well, this is nice, but I'm going to keep looking or going for that judicial unpaid internship. Right. And so now, going through this process, we tell people, we say, look, you are signing a personal integrity statement. If we offer you in January and February, there's no takebacks. You're committing. So you are committing that you are stop looking. You are not going to ghost us in May or in April, that you are in and you're in. And if you can't handle that, that's okay. No judgment. Just, this is not the right thing for you. We are not, a second fiddle or second choice to anything. And if we are, again, that's okay. Just, we wish you the best. And we've had a few people go through the process, and when push came to shove, said, thank you. I'm going to withdraw. Perfect. Because don't waste our time and don't waste your time. And we're okay with, again, attract and repel. We're perfectly fine. Actually, I prefer it that way. Because, a few years ago, we'd have people in April, hey, I can't get in touch with you. Where are you? Are you alive? Oh, I'm sorry, I took something else. Well, I just said no to 2 other great candidates because we had you slotted in.
Yeah.
So for the integrity of the program, we ask people to do that. And we've been doing that the last 2 years, and we haven't had a single problem.
What are some things that people might not know that they should have? Like the integrity statement, that's a great idea. So what are some other things like that people might not think that they may not know that they need, or that they should have, or that are a good idea, that you can think of that might be beneficial for people to know about?
We have our interns sign a confidentiality, and a full-on NDA for firm, for the firm, and specifically regarding like the clients and what we see. So it's also an NDA regarding like the firm tech, the firm marketing, all those kind of things. But more than that too, we have conversations, and we say, look, you may see your mom's friend, your mom's friend might be one of our clients. And we have to talk about those things. You know, and I always tell them though, I say, look, if you're the type of family that has those dinner time family conversations, I want you to have those with your parents, with your family, just no names. But
Yeah.
I highly encourage those type of conversations. So that's something that, you know, has evolved. The integrity statement has evolved. Making sure that they know, you know, look, you get 5 days off, you get 1 week off of the summer. Again, be a kid. Like, don't not go on your family trip for 4th of July. Go. But if you are going to be with us for 3 weeks and then you need 2 weeks off and then you're going to be with us and then you need another week off, it's not the program for you. You know, there's, you know, I have friends that will do what I did 15 years ago and just say, yeah, come hang out for 3 weeks, right? Or come hang out with us on winter break for a week in an informal setting, which we do. Just, you can't be a part of our summer internship program.
So in a way, like school is somewhat gamified, where like you get a score, right? You get a grade, and
Right.
do you have any way of having that accountability built in for these interns? I'd imagine if it would be kind of tough because they don't get paid. But do you have anything like that built in where it's either gamified or they get some sort of grade or they get reviewed, anything like that?
Well, we did that last year with the award, but that's a good idea, Tyson, because, you know, look, it was pretty apparent who our top 2 or 3 were. All our interns were fantastic last summer, and most of the summers they all are. But it was pretty apparent who would win, you know, who was in the running. So I think that's a good way when you have, you know, 8 to 10 of them like we do every summer, to make sure that interns 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 are still very engaged. So we don't, but now I have a new thing to add to
Yeah.
it or to think about.
Any
You know?
any correlation between like GPA and how well they do in the program?
No, I mean GPA and writing ability, yes. Look, we can't teach writing. I'm not a good. I'm an okay writer for as a person, but I'm not. I've never been a great legal writer, especially compared to lawyers. And we
Yeah.
have some, especially the ones with the higher GPAs, and you know that are brilliant. And so some of those lawyers are like, oh, well, can you help me on this? Can you do some of the writing? Others, you know, gravitate more towards the trial prep. So we kind of let them do what they like and what they don't like, and you know, steer away from some of the things that they don't like. So we have seen that, yes, but at the same time, some of our best interns have been the ones, especially in criminal law, the scrappier ones who hustle harder, who maybe don't have so much of the raw, pure intelligence. And it's funny. I was telling my wife yesterday. I was like, and my wife's a prosecutor in Palm Beach. Fun fact, she was also an intern at the firm, but it was that was version 1 of the internship, and it's not quite as salacious as it sounds. She was in law school. She's 9 years younger than me, and our grandparents are best friends, or were, you know, they were best friends, and they kind of put us. It started off as a, hey, you know, internship, but then it quickly became a little, you know, Jewish. It's called a shidduch when they kind of become the matchmakers. But yes, my wife is a former intern, and for a few years after, she did not let me have interns, but we've grown the program.
That's funny. So,
So
you had an arranged
fun.
marriage, and you also married one of your interns. Got it.
Yes,
Yeah, understood.
pretty much.
Yeah, understood.
But yeah, so you know, we give them kind of freedom on that. Oh, but what I was telling her yesterday was, I said, look, like, we want GPAs, we want good schools, but that's not like, I want more than anything. I want people that want it.
Yeah.
You know, I'd rather take somebody from a 4th tier law school who's on academic probation, and this is what they want so bad, than somebody, you know, who's at an Ivy League school and just looking at this as a stepping stone or just something to put on their resume.
Yeah, I'll almost always take passion over GPA.
Yeah.
I mean, there's exceptions to that, obviously, but
Right.
so what I want to do, I want to show people that are watching this on YouTube and that are or that listening, you can hear it, but I'm going to play your promo video, and
Oh,
that way people can get an idea about. I think it's a cool idea. I think it's a really good idea that you're doing with this. So let's show the people that, and then I'll ask you some questions after it.
okay.
It's really impactful to see how what we do helps them to move forward in their lives and to go back to their regular lives.
Truly how the work that goes on here impacts people and their lives, and just the change that even I as an intern could make in their lives.
Welcome to the Rossen Law Firm Summer Internship Program. It's structured. We have a curriculum. We have guest speakers from all across the United States and international. And I really wanted to be able to show the impact that the Rossen Law Firm that we have on our community and our clients through criminal defense and criminal justice.
Being an RLF intern gave me the opportunity to meet not only different attorneys, but I got a chance to meet different judges and see their experiences and insights to life.
My favorite memory of this summer internship is when one of the cases I had researched actually got the opportunity to.
So I'm going to kind of interject in between some of these. What I think is really cool is like a lot of them have like the RLF, they got the polos on. It's
branding.
The branding, you got the branding, but you got them like a bunch of pictures in the courtroom, which is awesome. So you got those experiences mixed in.
And one of the previous pictures is with a federal judge. That's Judge Roy Altman. He was, I think, the second youngest federal district judge ever. I think he was like 36 when he was appointed. I mean, he is an absolute star. I would not be surprised if he is even in the Supreme Court, on the Supreme Court one day.
Wow.
And being able to sit there in his courtroom was an amazing. It's not just state court; it's federal as well.
That's awesome. Really cool. I'm gonna keep
be shown to the court, and it was really useful and helpful to determining that case.
The most significant impact that being at RLF has had on me is definitely prompting some self-reflection in me in terms of what I want to do as an aspiring lawyer and thinking about the values that I want to uphold in the future. And especially something that Adam always says, which is having a blue-collar work ethic and white-collar skill and ability.
Being an RLF intern gave me the opportunity to work on motions, go to court, participate in developing strategy for many of the cases that we have here at the firm. Seeing it in practice was a very eye-opening experience for me.
Being an RLF intern gave me the opportunity to actually work on a lot of cases and content firsthand, being able to go to court, watch all of these crazy cool legal proceedings actually in person rather than just having a conceptual understanding of what the law is. I actually got to interact with it, see it actually go down, which is very important.
Tyson, can you pause for a second?
My first injunction, which was such a
absolutely.
So for anybody who's watching this on YouTube, and even if you're just listening to the podcast, that last picture had Seth Levitt, who is the executive director of the Jason Taylor Foundation. So Jason Taylor is a NFL Hall of Famer, Dolphins player.
This one right here?
Yes. Yep. And Jason Taylor started his own foundation to give back to South Florida community. And so our interns, I even brought in Seth to speak when we talk about the community piece of how our firm works with organizations like the Jason Taylor Foundation, whether we're judging a poetry contest, for inner city at-risk youth, or, for example, we've been partnering with In Jacob's Shoes for the last 8 years, which now I'm on the board of directors for. It's a local charity. We donate pairs of shoes to children at need all through South Florida. And actually for every referral that we get, this is the interplay of the marketing piece as well. For every referral that we get, we donate a pair of shoes through In Jacob's Shoes. So since 2017, we've donated over 1,000 pairs of shoes to our local community. And all that was just me looking, thinking about how can we have an impact? How can we gamify it? How can we make it fun? How can we combine doing good, with marketing, right? And so it's not just law, it's basically everything that the firm stands for, and it's showing them that. So even that's Seth, and he's the executive director of the Jason Taylor Foundation.
That's really cool. So instead of me playing this for everybody, anything else on this video you want me to play?
No, I mean it's basically we shot it last summer. We had all of our interns from last summer. We had them talk and interplayed some things, and and again that was something that even last summer. And look, it's iterations. So for any lawyers listening to this, you can do this. And it doesn't have to be this from day one. It wasn't this. This is 15 years in the making. Really, though, the last 5 years. And so last summer, I was just like, oh, we have the interns. We have our studio in the office. let's just get some content from them. Let's get some, testimonials. And then I was thinking about it. I said, no, after it was all shot, I said, we need to turn this into a full-on promo video.
Yeah.
And we spent a lot of time and effort in December compiling everything. And I'm like, this is the vision that I have for it. And that video went through about 10 different revisions and things. And so now we have that official promo video, not just random clips of testimonials.
Did you do the video in-house, or did you hire someone to do it?
We did that in-house.
Nice. I mean, it's very, very professional. For those of you that are just listening, I recommend that you check it out on YouTube. It's really good.
Thanks.
If you're okay with it, we'll put it in the show notes. Put a link to it.
Please do.
Notes.
Yeah. Please do. And we're actually, we revamped our webpage. So the URL for the internship is criminaldefenseinternships.com. And it's going to, we have that now, and, we're even whole rebranding of things, because our internship page before, the branding of it too was more of the come hang out type of thing. And so for the last year or two, I was like, this is not showing what we've evolved to. So anybody can go to I got to make sure I have it right. criminaldefenseinternships.com. And of course that will forward to the website link, to the actual web page. But you can see, and it's rebranded. It's a lot more professional. We have the video on there, and people can see it. But again, anybody can do this. It doesn't have to be criminal law, but as we've niched down, we're able to market it better. We're able to get better quality interns and being able to come here and talk to you about this as it actually being a thing, instead of it just, we got like 4 interns hanging out every summer. It's cool. It's fun. It's our way to give back.
I'm kind of laughing because we got to make sure you got the URL right. Cause we had this
Yes.
local initiative. It was probably 10 years ago, but it required us to, we were trying to target college students at Mizzou, and we printed out thousands of these, like it was on cardstock. Like we had them made and all that kind of stuff. It would look almost like it's like the size of a brochure, but it was just like just a one sheet of paper, and it had the wrong URL on it. It was, I thought, and I can't remember. It was like something like what'smycasevalue.com or something like that. We owned one of them that was like that. And it was the wrong one. And so we just had to throw them all away. It was like, that's why. So make sure.
Well, it's so much easier with the QR codes now, and we do that now for our printed stuff. Yeah. But I was also, I think it was last week, I'm like, man, I'm going to be talking to Tyson, and we can't just slap a QR code. I'm like, guys, we need to get an actual forwarding, a vanity URL to forward it to. I'm like, what are we coming up with? So
Smart idea. No,
this was our conversation last week. That's why I don't have it memorized yet. Yeah.
You got it whipped together. That's good.
Yeah. I'm looking at criminaldefenseinternships.com.
All right, so I want to get into the reason why I played that video is I wanted to get an idea as to how did the program start to get media attention?
So it was deliberate. I
was hoping you'd say that. So good.
Right. It was. So, again, over especially the last year and a half. So look, this has always been my baby, but I let 2 of our really great former employees kind of take it over for me. And they did such a good job, and they helped elevate it and do some things a few years ago that I just didn't have the capacity. And then both of them moved on. One of them, is I think now she's going to be a 3L at Harvard Law. And she helped us really elevate it into maybe version 3.0. But she left, and then the year after, our firm administrator handled it, and our firm admin did a great job, but then she left. And I was like, last summer I was like, I'm taking this back over. This is my passion. I need to be in charge of this. So I took it back, and I'm like, I'm never going to let it go. And after doing that again, getting back in, I was like, okay, what else? How can we elevate it again? And how can we use this as something that no other criminal defense firm can do, right? Or currently is in a position to do. And I was like, we can start getting some media attention, and again, niche it down more to real criminal justice, criminal defense. And then we can start partnering more with different, statewide and nationwide orgs, like the Florida Innocence Project, like the National Innocence Project. And, we have a bunch of others that we're really working hard to and building it into a bit of a cycle where in the off season, right? They're with us 12, 13 weeks. I mean, that's a quarter of the year. But in the off season, then it's, making sure that we build the firm's name, right? Because we want to build our, influence, our brand now. We've grown past the purely direct response phase of our marketing. We're a multi-million-dollar law firm. We're not at 8 figures yet, but we're trying to get there. And we need to be known on a more than just hey, we're, on a countywide basis, but we need to be known throughout the state of Florida, right, as the major power players in criminal defense and nationwide. And actually, like, what do we stand for as a firm, right? It's not money, right? It's social justice, it's criminal justice, it's community, it's helping people. It's our firm motto. We help good people when bad things happen so they can achieve their best future. And it's about, trying to be unafraid to say, hey, orgs, we're partners in this. And you guys don't really have any private paid criminal defense firms like us that are doing this and have this internship. And let's talk. We need content and speakers, and we can write some content for you, maybe get a few backlinks, right? And, and can we take on some pro bono, cases, right? And connect, or some low bono cases, and different things. So just kind of expanding the possibilities.
Yeah, I haven't heard the phrase "low bono" in a long time. But it's a good one.
Yeah.
What are some specific strategies or tactics that you think legal entrepreneurs could use to increase the visibility of their internship programs if they decide to have some sort of program?
Well, for us, I mean, we used AI to help us kind of curate the list, right? So that helps so much.
Yeah.
Of course, just being unafraid to put it out there. It's a lot of it's relationship building. And look, I'm here. I mean, Tyson, if I could talk to you once a week, I would love it. I've been, obviously I'm in the guild. I've been, listening to your podcast probably since day one. But it was me emailing you saying, hey, Tyson, like, it's been 3-4 years since I've been on the show. I got something new that, yes, we're promoting this, but I also think, your listeners, right, our friends, this community is going to want to hear the business side of it, right? And the creation side of it. So I have value. Like, I'm not just here to promote, I'm here to give value. So think it through. How can people give value, right? We're all about value. Be creative and be unafraid. So it's kind of this same stuff that I'm doing, but you don't have to wait until it's perfect, and you can start small. And that's what we've done. And, now, like, we have some internal goals of how many backlinks we want and how many press releases we want. But just start with 1, start with 2, start with a super local level. Go to your public defender. If it's criminal related, go to your public defender and say, hey, how can we collaborate? How can we work together? Like, we're not enemies. Sometimes some counties and, states, right, the public defenders and the private attorneys are enemies. We don't have to be. Right. Let's build bridges, and, start that way. Look, we've had judges, we've had criminal judges that we appear in front of every day, refer their personal, friends, children to us to be in our internship. Right. Now, usually those we don't say no. They usually get fast tracked, but right. I mean, amazing. Right. But that's amazing when we talk about relationships. And look, our interns have also, we held 2 political fundraisers last summer. One for a judge and one for a state attorney candidate. And they were there with us and they got to see that too. So just being creative, think outside the box, go on, use AI to come up with some different ideas and curate some ways.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Will you talk a little bit about how this can be used to build a pipeline for future employees?
Yeah, so we haven't been there yet, but that's on the future, and I will be so happy the day that it happens. So we have a few that, they know, hey, you're coming back.
Yeah.
You're coming back home, and look, even if it's somebody who ends up being a prosecutor, it's great because now, we have prosecutors that, have seen our side. There's a lot of people saying that all judges who handle criminal cases should be a prosecutor and a public defender. before they become a judge, right? To really get both sides. So the people who end up being prosecutors, they, like my wife knows what we do, but she knows firsthand from being an intern and seeing it when she was in law school. And then to have people who we've inspired to be the next generation of public defenders or private defense attorneys is amazing. And, again, there's two right now on my radar who, once they get their version of residency at the PD's office, once they get that in, I want nothing more than for them to come back home. And I look at it as coming back home, because we are a family environment, and, that is the way we run the firm. So yeah, I'm so excited for that, and it's going to happen.
I love it. And I can't wait for that to happen, for you too. It's interesting because you'd mentioned stuff about Maxim Lawyer, and what's always just been so amazing about the community is just, it's like this crowdsourced thing, like we're all like growing together, and that's what's been so kind of magical about it. But it's cool that you coming on here and you sharing your experiences, because it's a really brilliant idea that you have, that you could have easily just been like, I'm holding on to this myself and I'm not telling anyone my secrets, and you were willing to come on. So I do appreciate that.
Hey, if somebody can do the same and do it better, then I can learn too, right? And and I've learned exactly, like, I still remember, I missed the first, like the OOOG Max, Law Con in, like, when you guys had it at St. Louis
Law School.
I wasn't there for that. And then, but, I was at the first one after COVID, the last two.
Oh yeah.
And, right. But I think you guys did 4, right? I think I missed the first 2 and I was at the last 2. But I remember being there, and it's probably something, I probably learned it. It's probably something you said, but I'm sitting there and I'm like, Tyson and Jim are amazing, but they're not here to be gurus. They're just more of the facilitators. And they're just, and I'm like, and I love the fact that I met 20 new people, 50 new people we're all growing together. Exactly. And you say crowdsource, that's exactly what I would use. And just, it is, look, there's something to be said about those programs that do have the guru, and those can be good too. But I always thought that was the beauty of Maximum Lawyer, is that it really was a true community where, everybody kind of felt like we were growing together, and in this, more than even growing together, in this together, rather than in this to be a disciple of a guru for money, Yeah.
If I've learned anything in Maximum Lawyer, because I've had the very unique ability to be able to talk to a lot of different people, and I am very grateful for that. So I've been able to talk to many CEOs of legal vendors. I've been able to talk to many law firm owners, people that serve law firm owners, and there's no such thing as a guru. They don't exist. No one knows everything. It is the people that you think know everything. They're crying in their pillow just like everybody else is. Like they're and maybe not literally, but they're having their bad days too. They don't have it all figured out. That's been like one of the most eye-opening things to me, is just like it's not that. So on the whole theme of lessons though, what are some lessons that you've taken away from starting, building, continuing to run and improve these internship programs? What are some key lessons that you could pass on to other legal entrepreneurs so they can thrive in their internships?
Well, I guess probably a lot of things that I didn't do, which is it is best to have a plan at first, and to at least, think about what you want to accomplish out of it, because for years it was just come hang out. But if you don't, that's okay. Realizing that it doesn't have to be perfect. But if you want it to get better and better, and you want to do something elite, and I always say, like, I want to be the best. I always want to grow. So there's nothing that we try to half-ass in the firm, or make, mediocre or status quo. We always want to be better. But if you have that mindset and have that attitude, then have some time for self-reflection about it. And, when it's over, think it through and say, okay, well, what can I do better? Is this a year round? Is this next year? Is this do I want this to be just come hang out? And that might be okay for the moment in time. And then you might come to a point where you say, no, okay, I want this to be better. And, think it through. Ask the interns, hey, now we survey them at the end. And we haven't gone, I briefly reviewed last year's surveys, but probably in March, my team is going to spend time going through the surveys from last year and saying, okay, what are we changing? What are we adding? What are we going to take away? What did they love? What did they not like? Right. So that's helped too. And of course, a lot of this is just business stuff too. Just do it. If you want to do it, do it. Don't wait till it's perfect. Again, mine is 15 years in the making. And in a year or 2 or 3, it's going to be better and it's going to be different. We're going to constantly evolve it and change it. So it's just a lot of same stuff. Like there's so many people who, will go to Max LawCon this year. They'll come up, they'll have 30 different ideas and they'll have, paralysis and they won't do anything. And, instead of, and I remember me, and I've been in masterminds, right on hot seats with Tyson with you and Jim. And, I still remember my first one with Jim.
I feel like Jim picked on you a lot more than I did.
He did. And I loved it though. Look, in that group, we had a very special group. We had 2 grown men cry. And I'm talking bawling. We won't say anything else, but, and I didn't, but I was picked on. And I said, guys, this is what, it was 5 minutes of me fighting. And then I said, you know what? Y'all are right. Give it to me and give it to me hard. And I said, Jim, give it to me publicly on stage. And I promise you, this was the one in October in St. Louis. And I said, I promise you that in 3 months, when I'm there for the Guild Day in Scottsdale in January, so this must have been 21, 22, I promise you I will have an office manager and I'll have a bookkeeper. Because you're right, I'm running a multi-million-dollar firm with no office manager and no bookkeeper. I'm a moron. And it's not that I'm dumb. I needed somebody to put me in check and to say, whoa, like you're smart in some ways and you're dumb in other ways. And it was great. And I for that 90 days, it was all about, there's no way I'm showing up in Scottsdale, Arizona without an office manager and a bookkeeper. And I did, and I was so proud of it. Right. And that's great. And so you need those things sometimes. So a lot of it is just the basic stuff. Like there is no secret sauce.
No, there really isn't. There's lots of different ways of doing things. That's for sure. It is interesting. When you're in a group that's like that small with these masterminds, the last thing you want to do is to show up to the next mastermind or see those people that you've committed to taking some action on and then saying, I didn't do it. Like you just don't. Like it's because it's such a painful thing. But so I've got one last question for you. Before I get to it though, tell people again, and this is more for I think the interns, what's the deadline to apply? How do they apply, and what are you looking for in an intern?
So number one thing we're looking for is passion for criminal defense, for representing others. Okay, that is the absolute number one thing. Passion, dedication, hard work. It's just like Charlotte said, Charlotte spent the entire summer after her senior year of high school. So for those of you who watched the video, she's now a freshman at Duke undergrad, and she spent 12 weeks with us when she could have been partying and enjoying her last her last summer before college. And she said, blue collar work ethic, white collar skill and ability. And that's something that I learned at a very young age. And when I saw, because I wasn't in the room when they filmed it, when I saw that clip at first, I was just like, oh my God, like that speaks to me, because that is something I tell everybody. So that's the number one thing we look for, is how bad do you want this? Right. And if you don't, that's okay. There's something better for you somewhere else. That's number one. You can go to criminaldefenseinternships.com. It has that video. It has our webpage. It has all the information, but basically it's, we need transcripts, cover letter, and a customized cover letter. I care most about the cover letter, really. That's really, to me. And it's so funny because these days, Tyson, I don't know what who's teaching people what to write in cover letters, but oh my God, what I want to see, tell me your story, tell me why you want to be here, and tell me what you're going to bring to us. I don't necessarily care about so much about like all of your skills and abilities. I want to know, why do you want to be here? Why is this your passion? And why should I choose you? And why, over everybody else? So I don't know who's teaching these people to write cover letters, because I think they're horrific.
The writing has been shocking. Like, it is looking at a resume and a cover letter that looks like it was sent via text message is just astonishing. I'm gonna give a bonus tip to people. This isn't from you, so maybe if this is what you're looking for, then just tell them not to listen to it. But what I find to be the most effective is, if you do think you have a skill set that would apply to Adam's firm, talk about how your skill set is going to benefit the firm.
Million percent.
Yeah.
100%.
It's just like, it's a little pro tip. All right. Last question. Okay.
Well, hold on. So it's cover letter, resume, transcript, and writing samples. So those 4, but 3 of them are just to make sure that you're real, but really I care. And I read every single cover letter.
Love it. I'm glad you finished that, because I didn't want to. We might be left with a cliffhanger.
The deadline is April 1st, but we do it on a rolling basis. We're doing OCIs, we're doing group interviews now already, and we're filming this in February. So, by the time this airs, if you hear this, you got to get on it right away.
The air date's April 8th. So what I'm gonna ask Becca.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask Becca to move this up because of that. And so hopefully,
thank you, Becca.
Yes, I'll see if we can make sure we can make that happen. So I'll do that. But so last question, and I want to start with a quote. It's by Carl. Is it Jung or Jung? I don't know how you say it. But
Jung. Carl Jung.
Yeah, I thought it was, but it's with a J. So, who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. So who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens. So I want you to think about how the internship has evolved, and what have you learned about yourself as a leader and as the firm culture overall?
I learned so much. I mean, that could be an hour. I'll do my best. I think that's been one of the most amazing parts of my journey. Look, I have a background in leadership as I was a high school basketball coach for 10 years, but so what? That, 2021 was my hardest year as a person and as a business. That was the year the firm tripled in revenue and went from 6 to 13 employees, 2021. And that was the year, when we didn't have an office manager, when we didn't have, a bookkeeper, it was October 2021 when I went up and was so stressed. And it was, my bottom line, I made the most money that I've ever made that year. And I was the unhappiest I've ever been. And I should have been so happy because we're having this massive growth. The firm tripled in revenue, but I couldn't handle the stress. I wanted everything to be perfect, and it wasn't, and through masterminds, which a lot of times masterminds it's just business group therapy, right? Again, that's what it is. And I learned but also being willing to be vulnerable and listen to people and go, yeah, I think you're right. I need to change this about myself, or I need to do this. And also look, 2021 was the year that we started on EOS. And by being able to have real core values, we are so much of a better firm and have such a great culture now. And look, our culture is not easy, but our culture is fantastic for the people that fit. It's blue collar work ethic, white collar skill and ability. We work our ass off, but it's when it's passion based, it becomes fun. We had our quarterly state of the firm 2 weeks ago, and everybody was so into it. And my firm is not an easy place to work. But when you know yourself, when you have core values, and you can attract and repel. Look, we just hired somebody yesterday, and I don't do much of the hiring anymore, which is great. But when I come in, I want to come in and give people, what we call the talk. And I say, look, our firm is so amazing in this ways, and our firm can be so terrible in these ways, or to these, type of people. And again, no judgment, but I tell people, I'm like, we do a paid in office workday for all positions, at least one. And I'm like, if it's anything less than as you're driving home to your, whoever, you're doing a dance in the car, You're calling them and saying, hell yeah, this was amazing. If it's anything less than that, if we offer you, please decline, because you're not going to last 90 days and you're not going to be happy. And I want an environment where everybody is happy with blue collar work ethic, white collar skill and ability. So we've gotten very good at that, about telling people all the ways that the wrong person will be unhappy and being unapologetic about that. And that doesn't start unless you know yourself, you know the firm, you know the culture. And that came from a lot of mistakes, a lot of stress, and a lot of, just like, whoa, right? And just being deliberate and intentional through masterminds, coaches, mentors, business programs like EOS. So I think what you said is 1,000,000% spot on. But look, and it's about saying to yourself, am I vulnerable enough and emotionally intelligent enough to be introspective about that? Look, Bill Umansky in Orlando is one of my great friends that I met actually through Max Law, and he is one of the most introspective, vulnerable, authentic people I know. And it's just such a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us can learn from him. I know I've learned so much from him and from Jim and from you, again, and I still think there's nothing like being in a mastermind room with Jim.
Yeah.
Tyson, you're great, but Jim is just different. It's different.
He takes an emotional level to it that he applies to it, which is he definitely is very introspective. That's for
right.
sure.
You're going to be in tears in a good way.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, you have to be vulnerable and you have to think about it, and remove those barriers if you want to grow.
Love it. Thanks, Adam. Appreciate it.
Tyson, thank you so much.